SR93 Boxing, I'm back with a quick video. Amir Khan and Danny Garcia met together. And they just came across, I think it was a WBC convention, where Danny Garcia made it clear that he believes Amir Khan's a better fighter than Keith Thurman. Now, obviously, you could say, actually, no, if you just tuned in to boxing with having some knowledge of what goes in boxing, you might say Danny Garcia just said that just because Amir Khan's there, but not really, because he already mentioned these type of things before. He does believe Amir Khan's a better fighter. He made a point that Khan is more battle tested. He fought everyone. He has better wins, bigger wins on his resume. So, you take that into consideration. Amir Khan is a better fighter. It's good to see that fighters can kind of, shake their hands after a fight or not. But, that's common. What the more important point is, I want to get to the Keith Thurman part of it. Keith Thurman part of it. Basically, Danny Garcia refers to Keith Thurman in the amateurs as a slugger. And a lot of people might not know this. And, you might say there's two arguments that could be said. One, like, it might shock people. Like, really? He was a slugger? Because, look, another thing, the second thing, this is relevant to what I'm going to say for the first thing as well. The second thing is, a lot of people will say, why does it matter what he was in the amateurs? It's what he is now, right? This is true. But the fact that Keith Thurman was a slugger is not a surprise to me. At all. Because people think he has good boxing skills, and he does. He can box a bit. He can outwork you, outpoint you, he can box you, he can move, he has a decent jab. And I'm fairly sure he's improved from being a slugger in amateurs to what he is now. But see, a lot, it might surprise you, but it didn't surprise me. Keith Thurman's boxing skills on the outside seem like on the when I say outside, I'm not talking about range. Like on the surface, it looks good, and it is good. It looks really good. It looks better than it actually is. Keith Thurman's boxing skills are not as sound as Khan, and I doubt it's even as sound as Garcia's. Garcia, I think, is a better. Well, I think he has some of the skills a bit better. His timing, his feints, things like that. And his feint with his foot is a lot better than Thurman's. Thurman just sort of loads up. He every time he throws a punch, his hand is he's way open. He's telegraphed. He's quite quick with the hands, but his body reaction, you could tell what's coming. From a decent, it's a bit telegraphed. He's open. He's very open. Keith Thurman's his hands are very low. A lot of times he throws the wild hooks. It's a good power shots and everything. But yeah, that's I'm not surprised. Keith Thurman. That kind of makes me convinces me more that I believe I believe that Danny Garcia would beat Keith Thurman. So that was interesting to say, and I do believe Amir Khan's a better fighter, like Danny Garcia. He's right. Danny Garcia is right. Look, boxing has become hype. What I mean by that, what I mean by that. Here's the thing. Amir Khan, for example, and Amir Khan's in this case. I'll give you many more examples. Let's go with Sean Porter before we go with Amir Khan. Sean Porter was known as a killer. Right, he's still known as a killer, and Sean Porter is a good fighter. But let's be honest, Sean Porter had a draw against the past prime Julio Diaz. You could say Sean Porter was too young. Julio Diaz was in his prime anyway, so he had a draw which I felt like Julio Diaz should have won. Landed more power shots. I felt like he won more rounds. And he won his rounds more convincingly. Sean Porter was just outworking him, but not necessarily outlanding him. And Julio Diaz's punches were way more flush. They were better. They were way better than Sean Porter's punches. And because Sean Porter has the hype behind him, it didn't really kind of zap the hype away too much, because he didn't take a loss there. But what happens is this Julio Diaz goes on to fight Amir Khan, and Amir Khan, he got dropped, he got hurt. It wasn't the best performance, but either way, that's not anyone else's fault. That's Amir's fault for not putting in one of his best performances against Julio Diaz. But either way, he won the fight. It was a close fight, but he won the fight. Amir Khan looked more convincing. Amir Khan's win against Diaz looked more convincing than Sean Porter's draw against Diaz, which should have been a loss in my opinion, loss on Sean Porter's record. He goes on to fight Sean Porter again. It was a pretty close fight. This is the second time against Sean Porter, and it was still a competitive fight, and as expected. But if Sean Porter was the killer, you think he had a draw? He would have had a draw against Julio Diaz. His reputation of power comes from knocking out Mananaji. And it was the most devastating knockout that Paulie has faced. But again, that Paulie Mananaji, keep in mind he's been against with Miguel Cotto, and a lot of tough fighters. But keep in mind, Paulie Mananaji did not have the legs. Let's be honest. Be honest with yourself. And legs are not just there to kind of help you avoid punches, but also maintain your balance when you take a punch. For real, see, Danny Garcia's footwork is not necessarily considered the best, but footwork when it comes to movement, it might not be the best, but when it comes to footwork on its own, because I believe footwork is a part of, foot movement is a part of footwork. And Danny Garcia's foot movement might not be the very best, but a lot of other attributes in his foot, with his footwork, such as maintaining balance, especially when taking a shot, is phenomenal. It's amazing. It's amazing. So Sean Porter in that it was Sean Porter never see where. So Paulie Mananaji, he beat him, but what else? I mean, he beat Devin Alexander. I know he did that, but didn't Amir Khan do that as well? Didn't Amir Khan beat Devin Alexander as well? I know Devin Alexander was a champion and whatnot, but how far away, how much of a killer is he? How much of a killer is Sean Porter? How many people has he got on his resume? He got Devin Alexander, good win. Julio Diaz is a decent win as well. I forgot a few other names, right? Sean Porter is physically aggressive. It's a style that requires certain skills and certain attributes to overcome it, but he's not the top. He's far from the top 147 fighter. Fans should have known this way before. And Keith Thurman for Sean Porter won a close fight. That's the only good fight he's got on his resume. That's what I mean. Sean Porter has that hype behind him, that little Mike Tyson and this and that. All of a sudden, someone who's doing better than Sean Porter, i.e. Danny Garcia himself, he had a close win against Peterson. Fuck it. That's better than having a draw against Sean Porter. Sorry, having a draw against Julio Diaz. That's way better. Peterson fight, to be honest, Peterson didn't even do much in the first few rounds. And I actually gave it to, when I watched it a few more times, I gave it to Danny Garcia. Was rooting against him though, just for the kicks, just for fun. But that's why I think boxing is all hype, and a true boxing fan who actually watches and analyzes, kind of gets to see, when he watches with a good eye, will see past the hype for most part. Sometimes you can get caught up in the hype, but a lot of boxing fans will see past the hype and realize that Keith Thurman is a tad bit overrated, and Amir Khan's probably the better fighter than Keith Thurman. Amir Khan has a better jab. You can say, apart from speed, Keith Thurman is better in every way. No, Amir Khan has a better jab. Amir Khan has better footwork. Amir Khan has better hand speed, foot speed. Amir Khan has better. He has more experience. He has better range control. He has a better ability to take punches to the body. Amir Khan's chin, it might not be the best, but Keith Thurman's body is worse than Amir Khan's chin. And it's going to show in the ring. I think Keith Thurman will get beat quite badly. For now, it actually might be a close fight, but who knows? That's all I have to say, man. Amir Khan's severely underrated. Amir Khan, Danny Garcia, top welterweights out there. I'm SI93 Boxing. I'm out.